Chapter 16. Ava stood outside the office of Garrett Miller, plastic surgeon, as she debated if this was what she should be doing. Justin had been pretty clear he wanted nothing to do with Garrett, but Ava knew he would never forgive himself if something happened to him. She'd had a friend die in college from alcohol poisoning, and even though Ava hadn't given her friend the drinks, she lived with the guilt of thinking she could have saved her. It had been right before finals week, and Ava stayed home to study. The next afternoon, she'd stopped by her friend's dorm to apologize, but she hadn't even gotten close to her room. Yellow caution tape sealed off the room, and a crowd of people filled the hallway and passed back the rumor she'd been found dead that morning. No, she couldn't let that happen to Justin. She had to at least try to help. With fresh resolve, she pushed open the door and stepped inside. "Can I help you?" the receptionist asked. A vision of perfection, Ava wondered if she were a client as well as an employee. "I was hoping to speak with Dr. Miller." "Are you a patient?" the woman asked, looking her over with discerning eyes. Ava tried to keep her voice from shaking as she shook her head. She was way out of her element here. "No, I'm a friend of his brother's. Please, will you tell him I'm here about Justin?" The woman cocked an eyebrow but reached for the phone. "Dr. Miller, there's a woman here who says she's a friend of your brother's." She paused for a minute and glanced back at Ava. "Very well, I'll tell her. He said to take a seat and he'll be with you in a moment," the woman said as she replaced the phone. Ava sat and ran her hands down her thighs. She'd planned what she would say on the way over here, but now that she was here, all of her words sounded silly. A moment later, a door opened and a man emerged. She would have guessed he was Garrett, even if he hadn't looked pale and thin. Though his hair was dark, he shared the same ocean blue eyes that Justin did, along with the distinguishing cleft in his chin. "I'm Garrett Miller. What can I do for you?" Ava stood and crossed to him. "I'm Ava McDermott. I'm a friend of your brother's, and I was hoping that maybe I could do something for you. Can we talk?" He regarded her with an intrigued expression before turning to the receptionist. "Diane, hold my calls for half an hour." "Yes, sir," the woman said. Ava breathed a sigh of relief as Garrett led the way down the hall to an office. "I'm sorry to just show up like this, but I've just recently started dating Justin, and I understand you need a bone marrow transplant, and Justin is refusing to get tested. I also know he'll regret it if he doesn't, and I'm hoping we can come up with a way to get him to change his mind." "That's a nice thought," Garrett said as he sat down behind the desk, "but he isn't returning my phone calls. Hasn't for a year now. I can't say that I blame him, but I'd like to apologize and tell him that for whatever it's worth, he was right about Candy." Ava took the chair he motioned to and leaned forward. "What do you mean?" Garrett chuckled. "He told me Candy was bad news, that he'd been seeing signs of it before she left him, but I was stubborn. Justin had always been my idol, and here was this beautiful woman who finally wanted me over him. It was wrong, and I guess deep down I knew it would ruin our relationship, but I did it anyway. For about a year, everything was great, but when I got sick, Candy showed her true colors, said she couldn't be a nursemaid, and left. I realized then what an awful mistake I'd made, and tried to apologize to Justin, but it was too late." "So he's not aware you're no longer together?" Garrett shrugged. "I doubt it. He never heard it from me, and he and Liz aren't that close either. Plus, she's told me he never lets her talk about me. Why? Do you think it will make a difference?" "I have no idea," Ava said with a shake of her head. "But I'd like to at least try. This might sound insensitive, but how long do you have if you don't get the transplant?" 6 months, maybe a year, but I can feel it this time, so I think it'll be faster." Ava's heart broke for him. "Would you mind if I prayed for you?" Garrett's eyes narrowed. "Justin's dating a believer? Never thought that day would come again after Carol's death." "I'm still working on him too," Ava said. "But I have hope he'll come back to God." "Well, I'm not much of a believer myself, but I'll take help wherever I can get it." Ava reached across the desk and took hold of Garrett's hand. Lord, I don't know Garrett well, but I sense his sincerity, and I recognize that you are about reconciliation. Please give us the wisdom to make that reconciliation happen. And Lord, please place your healing touch on Garrett. Heal his body and renew his spirit and help him to see you. Amen.
Thank you, Garrett said. No one's prayed for me in a long time. He stood and motioned her to do the same. I'm not sure it will do any good, but I'm glad you stopped by.
Me too. Justin couldn't help but whistle as he entered the office. He'd been riding high all day after that kiss with Ava last night, and he didn't care who knew it. But his whistle faded as he caught sight of Peter's face.
What's wrong? You haven't been online, have you? Peter asked. No, I worked out this morning and then showered. I haven't had a chance to watch anything or check out any social media. Why?
Peter shook his head.
I don't think you're going to like it.
He turned his screen around and Justin's blood ran cold. Under the headline, Betrayed Again, was a picture of Ava outside Garrett's office, and then another one of them in the office. It was obviously taken with a long-range lens from outside, as it wasn't super clear, but Justin made out Ava's hand on Garrett's arm.
Seriously? This cannot be happening again. Maybe it's not what you think, Peter said. Is there another reason she might be there? Who cares why she's there? I told her I didn't want anything to do with Garrett, and she went anyway. Then she made me a fool by getting caught on film? How bad do you think the damage will be? Well, that depends on you. You have the opportunity to take the high road here, Justin. As long as you don't go off spouting how angry you are and how you hate love, then you could actually garner sympathy. Right now, most of the vitriol is pointed at Ava. Good. I can't believe I let myself fall again. I should never have let you talk me into this fake relationship.
Peter opened his mouth to speak, but Justin was done listening. He needed to walk and let off some steam. Without saying goodbye, he stormed out of the office. At least the show was not in session, so he had the lay of the compound mostly to himself. Justin could not wrap his mind around the idea of Ava betraying him. Everything had been going so well last night, and then this. Why had he opened his heart again when relationships only seemed to destroy it? But if he were honest, the answer to that question was clear. It was because he had glimpsed a life with Ava and liked it. He had tasted how happy he could be again, and with one move she had destroyed it. As he reached the front of the office again, an overwhelming urge to confront her welled up within him. He unlocked his car and climbed in, taking a deep breath to calm his anger slightly before taking off. As angry as he was, he recognized driving emotionally was not a good idea. Ava opened the door with a smile that froze when she saw him. "What's wrong?" she asked. "How could you, Ava? I told you Garrett had betrayed me in the worst way, and you went to him?" Her face clouded with confusion. "How did you know I went to see him?" Justin yanked out his phone and pulled up one of the articles. "Everyone knows, Ava. Someone caught you on film. Tia, probably." Her hand flew to her mouth as she scanned the article. "Justin, I'm so sorry. I thought I was helping." "Some help," he said with a sneer. "Now I'm the piteous host whom women leave." "Justin, I wasn't leaving you. Do you want to come inside and talk about this?" Her phone buzzed and she flipped it over, glancing quickly at the screen. "No, I don't want to talk about it. I'm obviously keeping you from something more important anyway. Probably my brother calling." Her face flared with anger. "Stop that. You know I'm not interested in your brother. I was hoping to save you from the guilt I feel every day. You see, I had a friend die in college, and I've always felt I could have saved her. I didn't want the same thing happening to you, and I thought if I could talk to Garrett, maybe there would be a way to reach you." He opened his mouth to tell her to mind her own business, but before he could respond, her phone buzzed again. She glanced down again, but this time her eyes widened, and her hand flew to her mouth. "Oh no."
What is it? Something was wrong. It was etched in every worry line on her face. And as angry as he was with her, he was also concerned. It's my mom. She said my dad had a heart attack. He's on the way to the hospital. I have to go. She ducked back in the apartment and began frantically searching for something. Keys. Where are my keys? How about I drive you there? The words were out before he had time to think them through or ponder the ramifications. He was still mad at her. Her family would be there. Was he ready to meet her family, especially under circumstances like this? And it was a hospital. He hadn't been in one since Carol died. Could he step foot in one again? Ava shook her head. You don't have to do that. You're angry with me right now, and you don't even know my father. Her tone triggered something inside him, and he realized right then he would go with her. She sounded scared, and he wanted to be there for her. You're right. I don't know your father, and I am angry with you, but I can see you're hurting. Besides, I don't think you should drive in your condition. He held up her hand, which was shaking ever so slightly. Maybe it wouldn't be bad enough to hinder her driving, and maybe it would stop if she got behind the wheel, but he didn't want to take that chance. As angry as he was with her, he didn't want her getting in an accident. Her eyes focused on her hand and then met his gaze. Okay, you're right.